Call to order the Greenwood Advisory Planning Commission for Monday, October 10th, 2022. First order of business is the approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker, second by Mr. Probst. All those in favor of that motion, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. 8-1 or 8-0 and abstention. Second order of business is we have a request for a continuance on PC 2019-062 State Bridge Suites Commercial Site Plan Extension. Who's speaking with that? Okay. Go to you, please.
So my name is Vipul Patel and we are the same ownership group. I was here in the office for my signage extension for the red group.
Yep.
We've been here for almost 17 years. So we own the La Quinta in the red group, and same ownership group is building this David Suites just past the La Quinta. And with board members' blessing, we would like to get a 2-year extension.
So are we continuing this?
Well, it says special requests or continuance.
Okay.
Their request is they would like an extension of their site plan.
All this current environment with the manufacturer and all this, like the interest rate and everything, we try to put everything, get ready, but I think all this causing us little delay, and we would like to get the extension for the 2 years.
Okay, so before I move on, it says, well, that's something. Okay, is there any questions or comments for their request?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Patel, is the lodging, is this an extended stay facility?
It is a high-end extended stay facility, yes, yeah.
Okay. Will there be apartments there also?
No, there is not an apartment. This is kind of like, you see the the residency on the county line. It's the same concept, but this is from the IHG, it's a different franchise agreement, but this is kind of high-end extended stay hotel.
Okay.
They don't have the kitchen yet, actually, they all don't have a kitchen.
Okay. I have a question for the planning director. The UDO was approved last October.
2 years ago.
Yes.
October 2020.
Of 2020. So
Yes.
yeah. And there was a change in the zoning at that point for extended stay.
The city adopted a new comprehensive, or not comprehensive, a new zoning map for the city. And yes, there were changes from the previously numbered zoning uses to something using more of an initial system. Previously, this was C2, is now IC or interstate commercial.
And under interstate commercial, can this area be used for extended stay?
Pulling up my use table right now, in the IC zone, overnight lodging -- extended stay is not a permitted principal use.
So it's something that today we would not prefer to have in the zoning in this area.
And based on our use table, the overnight lodging extended stay is not designated in the IC zone.
Correct. So I have concerns about extending this for 2 more years. For a little over 2 years, this has not been an acceptable use in that area. I don't know how other people feel about that, but
Well, he was approved in 19.
yeah, and they're asking to extend for another 2 years, which would put it 4 years.
Because it's set to expire November of this year.
Yeah.
Right.
This period,
Right.
following approval.
And that's my concern. Here we'll be adding something that's 4 years into a change in the UDO. That's my issue.
In fairness to the petition, it got approved, and then we had a pandemic for the last 2 years too. So it's probably, caused some issues with building and acquiring the right materials. Yeah, so I'm just throwing that out there. But
No, that's a question.
yes,
May I ask why 2 years, just not one?
But due to current situation, everything, and I know when I think architect wrote to the city here, I think city director, and he said the city only allow one time the extension. And so he said, if you want to request, either we can put it the request for the 2 year, but city only do one time extension. They don't do more than one time, if I understood correct. So that's why we want to request for the 2 year, and maybe we're gonna start sooner, but due to the city requirement, only one time extension, we would like to request the 2 year.
Correct. One asked about our extending this or continuing this. I laid out the requirements from the previous ordinance, which allow for an extension of up to 2 years to be granted by plan commission.
Only one time.
Yes, they're supposed to, they're not supposed to ask for multiple extensions. So I suppose they could ask for a shorter extension, but the maximum extension that you can offer is a 2 year extension.
because if they do a short one, they can't get it done, then they could come back for another.
So I have a question. One,
Yes.
why is this not grandfather since the UDO changed after? Shouldn't the original apply?
It is, but it has a set period of time. You have, from the time you file your application and get your approvals, a set period of time to start your project to complete it. They did not.
So
So
that's
it's
what,
set to expire in November of this year.
so that's what we're debating.
So that's why we're
the
debating, hey,
grandfather.
okay, it would be, okay, they should have had it done. They didn't get it done. Now they want an additional 2 years
For their grandfather.
for their
For the
use that, for what they, yes, that they had basically grandfather because they had a complete application and when we changed the.
Okay.
This time period is for the issuance of the land alteration permit. The land alteration permit has not been issued. They've had conditional approvals and staff was waiting for a final set of plans to review to make sure that the plans met the conditions that were conditions to their approvals. So they, this timeline is for the land alteration permit. There's a separate timeline for construction after you receive the land alteration permit.
Can I ask how much time that is? So let's say they did their engineering and submitted the plans to you guys and they were approved. How much time do they have to complete the project?
Under our old ordinance, it was 10 years.
10 years, so looks like they.
Well, and that's because there's a vested rights statute that they build time, and once they get it approved and they get their initial approvals out of the way, they have a certain number of years to actually finish it out. And I think that that's where we get that 10 years calculated from. There's a vested rights statute that applies.
Seems like it'd be worth your time to get approved. And hold on. Project.
So it was approved one time, but the city required that 50, I think 70% exterior with the stone and the brick, whatever city of Greenwood. And every franchise have their rules and regulations, so we have to appeal to our IHG, who own the franchise, to show them like cities required. So we changed actually, it was approved one time, then COVID hit, so we was little delay, everything was out of control. Then we resubmit the rendering actually with the new prototype design. So that way it take little time to back everything and change the design actually for next elevation. Then I think if I'm not wrong, already architect submitted everything to the city, the new rendering and everything.
So you got delayed meeting you had to go back to the owner to get approval of what we were requesting that the building materials would be. Is that correct?
So during the pandemic, shortly after,
Uh-huh.
the IFG, they're the corporation that owns all these different hotel groups.
Right.
So the Sabres falls under IFG. IFG actually changed their prototype design. Like they upgraded to the new model. So our rendering was for the old one. So we actually then changed all of our rendering and also comply with the city's
Okay.
like demands
Mhm.
for the brick and everything.
So they have.
So then it's been going back and forth between city and the IFG architects. So it's been taking a lot of time.
Understand, okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted, so do you believe if we were to give you an extension, you can have this done in a 2-year period of time?
Yeah, once we start, usually like the, ownership group, they did it, they built the hotel couple years ago. And usually, once they start, usually, if everything goes well, they are targeting 18 months usually to complete.
Yeah.
So we are, I think, pretty much very close what we are asking.
And if not, what's the consequences there?
Well, if he gets the land alteration, he gets the land alteration permit, as I understand it, then he's got 10 years to build.
Correct, they would have 10 years to be working on the construction and the building part. It is a new timeline would start.
And if they don't make it, then it expires.
Right.
Yeah, if they don't manage to do it, then it's expired.
And they'll start the process all over.
So based on when the UDO was rewritten, 2 years later now, then we get another 2 years, and then we get another 10 years. It'd be 14 years after the city has expressed what we're looking for. That's my concern.
That could happen, yes.
Can I expand on Monica's question on why the 2 years? As I understand it, you all had largely made it through you've been through our tech review process, you posted performance bonds. All that was left was to submit final plans or see the LAP. What is it, you think there's gonna be significant plan revisions that would take 2 years to come back through our process?
The plans should be like 99% done. It says now we gotta have like a builder go through it, see what he's gonna price it at, like all the make a contract with them.
So
Like there's still another process to start before we start digging ground.
And I think if I'm not wrong, architect already sent, my engineer sent all the drawings, I think plan and everything to submit to the city if I'm not wrong. I think he did it maybe a month ago or something.
I'm not, I think we had some plans in 2020 that were sent, but there was going to be changes. I talked to someone on the phone that talked about some changes to maybe the doors and material. I'm not sure if we've seen the final plans at this time. The 100% completed final plans.
And I will follow up that one to my architect about that one, and I can get back to you on that.
So back to, I guess, my question, you could obtain and bring a builder under contract after an LAP is issued, correct?
Correct, yes. And we are talking to the contractor right now, general contractor, because once we have submitted, we know that it's coming, so like we already start talking to the general contractor.
You don't anticipate significant changes to your site plan, your stormwater, your sewer
I don't think
access?
so at this point, no.
See, I think that we're getting caught up in the 2 years. She's probably needing only 6 months to a year because we've got everything in line. But if something happens, builder, and it gets delayed again, you can come back for another extension.
Exactly.
I got a question, Commissioner. How much did the pandemic slow you down or cause problems for your project?
I've been business for almost 25 years, pandemic completely changed, like our occupancy usually we run like give or take 70 to 80%. We dropped down to like 30, I seen some of, I own more than one hotel. And I see like come back to 30%, even 25%. For the period of time, like almost minimum 1 year, 10 to 12 months, that period of time. 25%, 30%, even some of the nights I see the occupancy rent is a single digit for the month. When it's hit, the pandemic hit, I see the like almost 2 months, single digit occupancy. Only my front desk people here or 1 or 2 guests in the hotel. It was rough here for everybody, you know. so it's-
Interfere with everybody's plans.
Yeah.
I traveled during that point in time. You'd be lucky for 3 or 4 cars in a parking lot when you went into a hotel. Okay, any other questions, comments?
Just got one, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Walker,
I mean,
that's okay.
Not to get too much in the weeds, but to John's point, you said that currently the UDO says interstate. Correct? Is what that-
Our interstate commerce, our IC is the levels that it goes by on a zoning map.
So so this doesn't fall into that anymore. What does this fall into? Just commercial? I'm just trying to understand. I should know it, I guess, but I don't.
Yeah, there are a variety of uses in the IC zone. I can, if you like, I can go through a few of them for kind of a general feel.
Yeah.
Animal grooming, veterinary clinic, motion picture. There's some special exceptions for some automotive businesses. Those would require a process as well. Daycare, event center, most every restaurant, a lot of different medical and health businesses. You can have a overnight lodging hotel, offices, library, event center.
So you can't have lodging.
So you could.
You can have a hotel for overnight lodging. Extended stay was not a permitted primary use, but for overnight lodging, that was a permitted primary use or permitted principal use.
What zones permit extended stay?
The extended lodging, overnight lodging dash extended stay is a permitted principal use in the CM and CL zones.
Okay, that's what thank you.
Where exactly is this? I missed, where is
So
this?
if
at?
you on the South Park Drive, next to the Tilson building, the lot is, there's only one lot left in that section.
You know, we're looking into this.
So currently it's zoned for something similar to McKinney. Is it in a hotel?
Yeah.
The IL zone does not allow for hotels right now under our new unified development ordinance.
So he's
Although-
saying the current use of La Quinta is the permitted use.
Yes, La Quinta would be a permitted use in the IC zone.
It's
for-
not
for-
extended stay, it's just an overnight.
That's the issue, the extended stay.
So it was like checked in a hotel for 4 weeks, not calling it an extended stay.
It's overnight.
That's right.
And this product is work for the board, it is not strictly for the extended stay, but they have like the concept was for the overnight. Plus like if somebody wants to stay 3 or 4 nights or 5 nights, you know, like, so that type of, it's a higher end product.
Short term.
Well, if
Yeah.
you're in town for a week for meetings with another company, you gotta be here for a whole week. I mean, technically, that's all an extended stay, it's not overtime. I think what the ordinance is saying is they don't want somebody moving in there for a month, right?
Yeah.
Or 6 months or whatever.
And this would be allowed under this. But moving in for a month, 6 months.
Yeah. Unless we put a,
I think that's what they want. It's not just to be an overnight hotel, you want an extended stay
Correct.
component, so they want that.
any other questions, comments?
Well, and here is your vested rights. I can just read it to you. If a person files a complete application as required by the effective ordinances or rules of a local unit of government or local government agency for a permit with the appropriate local government agency, the granting of the permit and the granting of any secondary, additional, or related permits or approvals required from the local government agency with respect to the general subject matter of the application, okay, are governed for at least 3 years after the person applies for the initial by the statute, ordinances, rules, development standards, and regulations in effect and applicable at the time when the initial application was filed. And if the development or other activity to which the permit relates is not completed within 10 years after the development or activity is commenced, then this would not apply. And that's where we get the 10 years. It's by Indiana statute.
Is commenced.
It says
Construction
commenced,
or
it
issue?
says if the activity,
That's commenced.
if the, how it does not apply, if the development or other activity to which the permit relates is not completed within 10 years after development or activity is commenced. So. It's up to you, one or two.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yes.
On the masonry discussion, I know you all have not seen building elevations, but does what was originally submitted fit within the zoning ordinance at the time that you expect what is proposed to fit within the grandfathered in zoning ordinance, or do you think there'll be
So we would evaluate them off of the, it'd be under the old code that we are currently evaluating them under, so they're grandfathered in. The materials will need to meet the 75% masonry on exterior. This was something that was discussed in the overlay committee staff report, which we no longer have the overlays or the overlay committee, but the approvals during this time are also grandfathered forward. So we would be looking off of this as well as our old ordinance for their development standards and for their materials and elevations. It would not be our current unified development ordinance. It would be looking at the older version that was pre-October 2020.
And I think the new version have the 75% of the brick and the stone exterior elevation.
your new version does?
Correct, yeah.
And you stated before that you had not applied for the LAP, issued the final plans and applied for the LAP to meet the State Bridge extended stays architectural requirements, or because you had to pull back to meet the city's architectural requirements? Makes sense.
There was, you're talking like why we were able to clear.
Why did you not finalize your plan? You said it was to meet State Bridge's architectural requirements.
Yeah, so after we had to, because we had all the drawings completed a while back, maybe over a year ago, because State Bridge had decided to change their model, we then had to change, like compared to theirs, we had to make ours similar to that, just based off what our lot size is. And then we had to also come up with the city's 75% masonry requirement. So just a little bit back and forth there. And we do have it completed. And I believe the architect sent it over, but we can ask him to send it over again just so you guys have it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sounds like you got your plans updated. Could you submit them in short order?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah. I will talk to my architect tomorrow morning and we'll probably submit it in a couple of days.
Thank you.
Isn't that all that you need, Mr. Nelson?
We were waiting for their final plans, their site plan, a final version of that, as well as 2 hard copies. We're also waiting for the elevations. Once they have those and staff is able to review them to ensure that they meet the ordinance prior to October 2020, along with the conditions listed on the technical review committee report and the overlay committee staff report. They meet all of those, and staff confirms that all of those have been satisfied. that is all we would need in order to issue the land alteration permit.
And you say you already have those things?
Correct.
Why do we need an extension?
Because it expires in 5 days.
No, it expires in a month.
Or a month.
Expires in a month. If they've already got them, I don't see why we need an extension.
Well. Tell you in the world of construction, you think of that.
Well, so if you can submit those next week, can you also come back on the next meeting if you need an extension? Because, I mean, to John's point, if you've got all that, I don't know why we would need to grant another extension for 2 years.
It's because I think the deadline is coming soon and between the city and we clear to back and forth, we just might be at the end, like we're gonna be tight schedule and something needed, so we need to be, apply now compared to wait for the last minute, and it's a very expert now, and I think we don't have another meeting, board meeting until November or something. If we can get the date, then I'm out of luck.
You need some cushion.
Yeah, exactly. Anything can happen, any emergency or anything.
We we'd only have one meeting before the 12th because November 12th falls on a Saturday. Our next meeting's the 14th after that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, motion's been prepared. It does say she's got one.
At the top, just as
Yeah.
in the text of it, you determine how many years you want.
Do you have to read off the 7 and 3 conditions?
No, because we don't have them. Well,
I was
I mean,
gonna
just-
I mean,
just-
well, I
just
have
note-
them, I didn't
yeah.
want to laundry list them.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Just
in the motion.
refer to them.
just refer to them in the motion.
Okay, I move that we grant petitioner Mahesh Patel's request for an extension of his commercial site development plan, docket DC 2019-062, approval by the technical review committee on January 22nd, 2020, and subject to the 7 conditions, and by the overlay committee on January 29th, 2020, subject to the 3 conditions for a period of 1 year to expire November 12th, 2023.
You have
Is that okay?
for 1 year or 2 years.
I said 1.
Just check.
I was just
clarifying.
going with 1 year because they said they were close.
Okay.
So I'm thinking if you go ahead and proceed, and now you've got a few months, you should be able to get that turned in.
We got a motion by Mr. Walker, second by Mr. Bates. All those in favor of that motion signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Got 7-2. That motion passes for 1 year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Any old business?
I
Any
do
old
have-
business from the floor? Oh,
Wait,
no,
one more
I'm sorry.
So I do have a request for plan commission, advisory plan commission, to direct planning staff to remove the commitments concerning the use of development of real estate made in connection with the rezoning of a property. It was for the, I'll probably mess up the name, but Equicore development. These were conditions put on, or commitments, I should say, put on a property in 2006. The development is no more. It is actually where the Dennis Floyd property is going, which you guys have recommended new conditions for. This did not show up in the title search for some reason, and planning staff was able to find the commitments at a later date. It was an error by both planning staff and probably the petitioner for not being able to locate these sooner. But to formalize this and to make this official, we should really remove these commitments since we have placed new commitments on this property.
I can explain. This was a rezone that originally happened in 2002. And the developer did not record the commitments in 2006, but the developer never closed on the property and owned it. So when the recorder recorded the commitments, but of course they did not show up in a title search because the developer never owned the property. So when Denton Floyd went to buy it, that did not show up. Developer never owned the property to properly commit it, but they are recorded, so they're hanging out there and they might be a cloud upon the property. So the proper procedure is to terminate the commitments. So we need to direct staff to file petitions to terminate those and give the notice for the hearing. Under your rules of procedure, that's a 30-day notice. So we also would request that you would waive your rules of procedure to allow 10-day, which is like the minimum statutory, so that we can get that published and get that out to the adjoining owners and maybe get these terminated as soon as possible.
It just takes a motion to do that.
Yes.
Do we need one motion or two?
You just, well, you're going to do two things. One, you're going to direct staff to file the petition to terminate the commitments for ordinance 0213 Equifor. And then we'll get a second motion to waive the rules of procedure to allow a 10-day notice. Instead of 30.
First motion,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to initiate a commitment vacation for Equifor development per the reasons noted by the planning director.
Second.
motion by Mr. Shell, second by Monica. All those in favor of that motion, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then motion for
To suspend the rules of procedure to allow 10-day notice instead of 30.
So moved. So moved what she said.
Second.
motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Bates. All those in favor of that motion, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I appreciate it.
You know,
Sorry, Gabe, didn't need to hijack your show.
Any old business from the floor? Under new business, PC 2022-072 GW Medical Primary Plat. This is primary plat. It is public hearing, 15 minutes for the petitioner, 15 minutes for the demonstrator. I believe we have the petitioner online. Students, will you explain our responsibilities on primary plats?
Primary plat is a ministerial act. If the primary plat is filed and meets the requirements of the subdivisions division of subdivision control ordinance, you are to approve it. If it does not, you have to specifically set forth those provisions that it does not meet.
Okay, having said that, our petitioner, I believe, is online. We'll have to have you sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm this perjury, the testimony given is true to the best of your knowledge?
I think you're muted.
Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry.
You can now.
I didn't catch that last, but was there something I needed to?
Need to be sworn in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you
Again, please.
swear or affirm this perjury, the testimony given is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. My name is Caleb Sondergrath, 250 East 96th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. Am I good to proceed? Sorry, I apologize. I couldn't make it in person. Apologize I couldn't make it in person. Had some things come up. So appreciate you guys letting me hop on a Zoom. I'm also here with Theo Stone. He's with Dunphy Development as a part of the developers. So if you have any questions for them, he's on as well. Hopefully everyone can see my screen just to kind of give an overview. Great. This project is located on the southeast corner of Emerson Ave and Wilson Drive. So the Walmart's just to the north. Like Gabe said, this is a primary plat. So this is the entire 7-acre parcel, and we are splitting it for one lot, which will be our medical office building here on this kind of northwest corner. The remainder of the property will be a block that could be split into 3 separate lots in the future. And we're, as a part of our project, we're also including the infrastructure and roads for those lots, which will come as a part of our construction and land alteration permit. And then here's just kind of just the line work showing kind of how we're splitting, dedicating the right of way along Emerson, have our lot, which has the medical office building, and then the remainder are blocks with easements kind of for access, with connection along Wilson and right in, right out along Emerson Ave. That's really all I've got. So if you've got any questions, please let me know.
All right, is there anybody else to speak for this? Anybody to speak against this? Close the public hearing, and I'll open it up for questions.
Like to ask the city engineer, is there any issue with having an access drive coming out on Emerson that close to Wilson Drive?
No, it's something we've worked with the petitioner on. I think they're far enough away from the Wilson Drive access point. They're also providing a right turn lane both for the right in, right out, as well as for
Egress, egress.
Wilson Drive. So we think they've properly accommodated the access.
Thank you.
So it'll be right in, right out.
Yeah, and there's a boulevard through Emerson there that
Yeah.
will allow them to cut either. So it'll truly be a right in, right out.
And if they want to go left out of there, they're gonna have to go out to Wilson Drive. And then that's fine. Yeah.
Jump the curb.
Don't, good luck with that.
Crazier things.
All right, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, there's been a motion prepared.
Mr. President, regarding docket PC 2022-072, the primary plat of Greenwood Medical Building, I move to approve the proposed primary plat of 2223 Greenwood Medical Building submitted by Kimley Horn on behalf of 2233 Greenwood LLC, docket PC 2022-072, subject to the technical review committee condition that all staff comments are addressed because the primary plat complies with the standards in the Unified Development Ordinance, Subdivisions Division, and to direct the president to sign the commission's behalf the notice of determination and written findings regarding the approval of the primary plat as prepared by the planning director.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shell and second by Monica. All those in favor of that motion signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 9-0. Good luck.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Next order of business is the Bca Bc Meeting Schedule for 2023.
Wow, ready?
Yep.
Already, so this is our updated BCA and PC meeting schedule for 2023. Just some kind of part of it's housekeeping, getting it ready for the next year. Already some of our petitions are gonna soon be using this schedule, so we need to get it out ahead of that. I will note some minor changes to this. We have combined the agenda distribution date with the submittal of proof of public notice. The proof of public notice before was only a couple days before the hearing. So sometimes we were still waiting on that proof of notice. And we wouldn't find out until 3 days before the hearing that they did not complete all their paperwork. So this will help us to only put things on the agenda that have had all of their proper notifications in place. We also have kind of a note for annexations since they are handled differently, and that's noted by an asterisk at the bottom of the meeting schedule.
And there are always possibilities that there be no need for a meeting.
If there is nothing on the agenda, there is a possibility that there would be no meeting. Something I would like to try and fit in is some plan commission and BCA training. So if there's ever a empty agenda day or a smaller agenda, there might be a chance that we still have a meeting, even if there's not a petitioner on it.
That's happened. Thanks.
Yeah.
We used to do them quarterly. The last meeting of the
Yes.
quarter.
Right.
But there is a possibility that if there's nothing on the agenda and no trainings to do, that we could cancel the meeting.
Sure. I can't move on. All right,
Move to approve the schedule.
Second.
motion by Mr. Shell, second by Monica to approve the 2023 Bca Bc Meeting Schedule. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Tiring. December, my last meeting.
Oh, so the meeting, I thought maybe just retiring from your full-time job.
No, he's not retiring from that.
No, actually, I'm not retired.
But retiring from this,
Huh?
but retiring from this.
Well, because I will no longer be a resident.
Oh, I know.
I can't travel from North Carolina.
Well, I
Everybody.
didn't know you were moving,
I
so-
think I can only do it, meeting online twice. So.
Well, you're good until February.
There you go. So anyway, I do, any new business from the floor? Seeing none, I do have one question or comment. Did anybody get their vouchers for this meeting?
I just haven't passed it out yet.
Okay. Just checking. Any other announcements, comments?
Is there anyone else that commission is up to date with?
I don't know. Lisa would have. My commission actually does expire.
I'll check with her before the next meeting.
I got one other question. Are they ever going to get done with ministry? What are we doing?
To state that project's being run out of the mayor's office. By our capital program manager, it's not being run by me, but they are on schedule.
I see they got
targeting
blacktop.
to do yeah, they paved today on the North Lane. Last I had heard, their intention was to try to get the south side of Main Street looking like the north side of Main Street. There's been a lot of issues with sourcing materials right now. Concrete is very hard to come by. It's becoming even harder to come by. Contractors are being told they only get 3 yards a day or 3 loads a day or 100 yards a day. It's not really enough to slip curb and sidewalk and all the other stuff that's on that project. So I think everything's being evaluated right now, but the goal is to get the south side of Main Street, the north side of Main Street by the end of the year.
The water company is actually doing the project that is to the
To the
west.
west of Main Street.
Main Street.
Yes, that's a different project. The water company is boring in a new line. They're putting in a 12-inch water main. Right now, I think there is a 2-inch water main in Main Street, and it just doesn't have the pressure needed to fight fires through there.
Last year, there was a fire on Euclid. And one truck hooked into a hydrant, another truck came along, hooked into a hydrant, it was dry. Wow.
So, and the water company also did water main work east of Madison Avenue this summer. And I know those project schedules kind of ran together and caused some delays on this issue.
How long is the water company scheduled to be?
West of Main Street, it should be reopened. They plan to have it paved or restored by Thanksgiving by the end of November.
Okay.
Last announcement, we will have a meeting agenda for the 24th. We do have a primary plan on there right now.
That it? Primary question.
I believe we have a rezone that might be possibly continued. And then there may be some other items that are added to the agenda as well.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to be at 10.
Anything else? Motion.
Adjourn.
Second. Approved.
Years do we have?
Trent's the one who wanted to get out.
Here's one.
Brian.
Dos más.
Familiar?
Aquí.
Oh, you got
He
them.
can sort of act like.
I do.
Nice.
Two of them are.
Yeah, so we got the pushback.
I didn't.
We had to hold,
And
then we can move to the end of the ramp. Hard to do, and it hurts still. Maybe I can tell there's a issue